Hello everyone, Kent.Bressler here. I want to welcome you to Kent's Kidney Stories. During our time together over these podcasts, I'd like to discuss kidney disease. I'd like to tell you about my journey as a transplant patient, but also talk about dialysis, kidney donation, and just about anything else that might be of interest. Kent's Kidney Stories, podcast endorsed and sponsored by kidneysolutions.org. Hello everyone, this is Kent.Bressler, and we're going to do a very interesting podcast today. I'm just in the throes of recovering from COVID. And this just so happens to be my 100th podcast. My friends are telling me that's a big deal, but it's just been a real fun time for me. It's been a real enjoyable time. The 100 episodes has been not only interesting, but I've met a lot of really nice people and a lot of people with great stories. You know, it started out talking about my 30 plus years as a kidney transplant recipient. And we traveled through the podcast sessions talking about gout and talking about immunosuppression and skin cancers and just about everything that you can think of. We covered in these episodes. The most important thing, I think, that came out of all of it was the friendships that I've gained. Marilyn Garcia, who's been very instrumental at Kidney Solutions. She's been very encouraging to me on these podcasts and has been able to get them up on our website. Jason Nunez, who's been the engineer, faithful engineer for all the episodes, every last one of them. He's done all the artwork and all of the things that make this thing go. And I'm happy to say that I'm going to be turning some of these over to him, some of these podcasts, so that he can contribute. He's got a lot to contribute. He's an amputee plus a kidney recipient, so his deep faith has put him in a great spot for helping me with Kidney Solutions and Kent's Kidney Stories. You know, it didn't take long before I realized that talking about myself wasn't going to make it. And so when we started talking about others, I think the podcast really started to take off. We talked about with James Myers and Jonathan Traylor and Armand Halter, all of them who are gurus in the kidney world, in my kidney world anyway. They're very close friends. They've done tremendous amount for Kidney Solutions, but also for my podcasting. They provided some very interesting talks, especially in the case of Jim with PKD and Jonathan with a great story about his crashing into kidney disease or kidney failure, and Armand, the fellow with 2 baby kidneys. So they're all interesting, and I love them to death. Other very interesting characters that I've come upon and met are Payal Shah, a PharmD, Ed Hickey, Richard Knight, Paul Conway, all from AAKP, a great organization, American Association of Kidney Patients. I've had some really great foreign transplant podcasts, especially with Colm Clifford from Ireland, and Ben Street and Jasper Sharp, transplanted in Austria. And Ben was the donor who came from London during the pandemic. So those are fun listening to. Also, Fez Awan, fellow from London. And then I look at all of my friends from the kidney world, like George Franklin, who's in charge of the Quarter Century Club. And there's been so many that I just can't begin to tell you. If you could just go cruise through Kent's Kidney Stories, all episodes, you're going to find something of great interest. A special thanks to Karen Mazurkati, who has listened to these podcasts for a tremendous amount of time, hasn't missed one, and always makes a nice comment. She's been with me through this later kidney journey on Kent's Kidney Stories and at Kidney Solutions, and I really appreciate her. Shannon Mulroy, the Kidney Solutions living donor coordinator. So I'm going to miss a whole lot of people. So if you really, really want to know a lot of really nice stories, especially all about the kidney world, I think it would be nice for you to just cruise through all of the episodes at Kent's Kidney Stories, podcasts for the kidney community. And so I think we'll get on with our podcast. And remember, the most important thing is that Kidney Solutions is here for you. KidneySolutions.org.
Hello, everyone. It's Jason Nunez, the audio engineer for Kent's Kidney Stories. Just wanted to make my own moment here within this episode, since I was unable to participate in the recording with Kent, Armand, Uncle Jim, and Jonathan. I wanted to take a moment and kind of share my congratulations and my thoughts about Kent's Kidney Stories, Kent.Bressler, and join in the celebration of this momentous milestone occasion of episode 100. And I have a background in podcasting, and let me just share with everyone who's listening first, before I do that, thank you for listening. In my conversations with Kent and within our meetings that we have about the podcast, I try to take a moment and share with him the stats and say, hey, by the way, you have X amount of listens to this point, and you have listeners who have heard the podcast in this city, and in this country, and in that country. And to be quite honest with you all, Kent really gets a kick out of that. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. It really brings a smile to his face and joy to his heart. So thank you all for that. For myself, it's been a pleasure to be a part of this and to help Kent with this special project. He's such a wealth of knowledge, and just to have time with him and to speak with him is a blessing for me. And he played a pivotal role in my kidney journey and still does. My kidney transplant was January 16th, 2020. And even now, as of recording this in 2022, he still plays a role in my journey. The way Kent refers to them are bumps in the road, whenever you have something come up. And, I've had some of those, and Kent's been there. And he's called and he's followed up and he's made sure that I'm doing okay. And he's a special friend that I have. I consider him a mentor, and not only a mentor, but a friend, a good friend. And we have not had the opportunity to see each other since the pandemic started, face to face, in person. We've seen each other on Zoom plenty of times, but I look forward to the day that, Kent and I can get together and be together in the same room and just, talk. And I look forward to that very much. But for now, Kent, congratulations on episode 100. I look forward to helping you get to 200. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. I'm going to get back to editing this episode. And everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in episode after episode. Please do so. We have more coming your way. We have more plans for you. Kent and I are very excited about. And in the famous words of Kent.Bressler, keep breathing.
Hello, everyone. Kent.Bressler here. We're going to be doing some podcasting. I'm going to call it what it is. It's evening where I'm at. I don't know where it is, where you're at, but best wishes. As we do all the time, We always start with prayer, so let's do that. Heavenly Father, we spend so much time worrying, so much time that I think maybe it becomes a burden even to you to listen to it. Being able to be at peace is a very special thing. We know that it comes through a really strong faith in you. And so I would like to ask you for a special permission tonight that you grant all those who are struggling to gain that peace. Tonight, we ask you to grace our presence as we discuss some aspects of kidney disease so that it may give those listening some peace. Thanks so much for being with us every step of the way. Amen. Okay, so tonight is my 100. This is my 100th podcast. When you hear it, it's 100, and I guess that means a lot. It does to me, but the most important thing is I'm surrounded by friends tonight. I've never done this. I've never had 3 or 4. Yeah, and Armand says maybe not. So, this is going to be a freewheeling event. Believe me, there's no construct to this at all. We've not put anything together. Matter of fact, our bald heads have never graced even an idea what we're going to be doing. But I can tell you that it's going to be fun. And yes, unfortunately, and this will be remedied later on, there are no women in this group tonight. So put your hat back on. You got too much hair. Okay, so on this 100th podcast tonight, I brought in with me, I'm going to start with, I think, the elder statesman other than me, Armand Halter. And James Myers is here with me, and Jonathan Traylor. And he's from Kerrville, so he's the one that was late. I don't know how he could be late in the same town as I am, but that's what happened. So each one of these guys, and well, let me say, each one of these gentlemen have a unique presence in the kidney space. And I say unique, they've all traveled on a journey that you can listen to on Kent's Kidney Stories because they've all been podcasted, every last one of them. And don't ask me where, but they're numbered. So just go look for Armand Halter or James Myers or Jonathan Traylor. And so here we go. So good evening, Armand. I want to start it off with you because what is your uniqueness within the kidney population? What makes you unique?
I have a pediatric transplant, which my donor was 3 years of age. And so due to the difference in size between an adult and a young child, I got both kidneys. And, very quickly they respond to the load and they grow to adult size.
That is very unique. Yeah. So Jonathan, same question to you. What makes your kidney journey unique? What is it that you have that has set you apart from other kidney patients?
I would say, surviving a near-death experience. Not all kidney patients get to say that. Also, I was direct donated to by a friend. So I have a friend's kidney. So it's a pretty unique story, actually. That kidney came from my home state of Kentucky. And just so happened that kidney was an exact match for me and everything. So I would say that's a pretty unique story.
Very unique. Very unique. Yeah, and after we get, every one of us talks about our uniqueness. Jim, you have an illness or a kidney disease. It's classified as, quote, rare. And I think that's what makes you unique. That's why I asked you to come on. Besides, you're not a distant friend, pretty close friend. So I wanted to make sure that you got here tonight to celebrate with me. Tell me what makes you unique in the kidney world.
Well, I have polycystic kidney disease, I was diagnosed as of this month, 42 years ago. And on the 27th of July, that was the first time I was on dialysis. That's 10 years ago now. I've lost 5 members of my family to PKD, including my father. I'm the first one in my family to receive a kidney transplant. And as you know, I'm a very active kidney advocate. And I would say that both Jonathan and I are incredible social media freaks. And that makes us unique, sharing things where we try to raise awareness about kidney disease and things that, we consider to be helpful to other kidney patients.
And do a fine job of it, I might add. My uniqueness is that I have FSGS, and I've had my brother's kidney for 35 years. Armand's had his his kidneys for 25, I believe. Is that right, Armand?
26.
Wow.
It was
Where'd that
26
year
was-
go?
Yeah.
Where'd that
I'm
year
sorry?
go? Where did that year go?
I know.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So my unique story is just that fact that I have actually been a preemptive transplant patient because I only had 2 days of dialysis before. And that's really unique in this world because back then it was a march, as it is still a march to dialysis before transplant. And now we're trying to reverse that and make it transplant first. And so that is, I think, what makes my journey unique. So as I've looked back, I just ended up having an interview actually with a company that's doing a research project out of London. And we talked specifically about FSGS, and they wanted to hear the story and how I was diagnosed and essentially talked for better part of an hour. And as that talk went on, it got me to thinking that there are a lot of stories out there, but how many are so specific to the disease process that you have? Jim with PKD, he's got family history. And Armand, in my talks with you, you really haven't got a firm diagnosis on what caused your kidney failure. Is that correct?
Well, we have a pretty good guess. When I was little, as in about the age of 5, I had an inflammation in my kidney. At first, the doctors thought that, now this is in the 50s, the late 50s, and so they thought it was a horseshoe kidney, and they were prepped to go in. It wasn't anything like that, but since they were in, they took out the appendix, and then they figured out what I had was a necking of the urethra from the kidney down to the bladder.
Mm-hmm.
It was necked at both the bladder and up at the kidney. So there were a series of operations where they went in and would remove the neck there and stretch it in one direction, let that heal, come back in, remove the other one, stretch it, and like that. The result is that you pretty much have a straight pipe. And when in actuality at the bladder, you have a check valve. And that obviously probably didn't work that well because over time there was backflow up into the kidney, which caused the general infection, glomerulonephritis. And it wasn't until I was 40 that when I gave blood at a local company, they determined that I had kidney failure and left, called home. And my wife got the message well before cell phones or anything like that. So I come home and she's a little upset. So
To say the
and
least. Yeah.
to say the least. So, the diagnosis was confirmed, and but by that time, both kidneys had been impacted, and I was at 10% functionality, and so within 6 months, I was on peritoneal dialysis.
So then that's different, totally different than what Jonathan went through. Jonathan kind of had his flight was straight into the ground, if you will, with kidney. I mean, he crashed into what we call renal failure. And Jonathan, see the difference here. We're talking about mechanical versus, disease process in the kidneys with PKD, FSGS, and then two mechanical issues with, the anatomy of the kidney and then you with, you believe have diabetes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I suffered with chronic diabetes and uncontrolled. So uncontrolled diabetes, hypertension led me down the road that I ended up in, flat on my back.
Yeah.
So
With a tube down your throat, with the tube down your throat, looking up at the ceiling, wondering what the hell's going on, right? When you woke up.
Absolutely. Most traumatic event ever that happened to me. Life altering. So all within a matter of just minutes, my life completely changed. So it was a scene out of your favorite medical episode, TV show, literally.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This is where you don't want to go, right?
But the key word I think in this for me was uncontrolled. So diabetes was out of control, hypertension, obesity, all those things were huge factors in my kidney failure. Plus, lack of medical care. Some of that was on my part. Some of it was, there's other factors that played around with that. But exercise too. That's another one. I didn't have much of an exercise regimen, and so those type of things ended up leading me, to kidney failure. So, and that's what
How
happened.
old were you when you crashed?
What was I, 40, 41? I think I was 41. Yeah.
And so you're transplanted pretty much right after that. So you're in your 40s when you're transplanted.
Yeah.
I was near that. I was 37 when I was transplanted. Jim, how about you? How old were you?
Transplanted, diagnosed, or on dialysis?
On dialysis? No, when you were actually transplanted.
I was 61.
61. Okay. So
I
you
was
went,
diagnosed when I was 25. I started to go down to Indiana University Health at the request of my primary care physician. They put me on a renal diet. They put me on high blood pressure medication. I was able to put off staying off of dialysis until the age of 58. I'll tell you a story I haven't told anywhere else on social media just because it's a special occasion for my buddy Kent. I was
Thank you.
not feeling well, and I was laying at home on my bed in Crown Point, Indiana, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I was feeling dizzy. I was feeling nauseous, and it got to the point where I couldn't get up, and I was having difficulty moving. And I had a cell phone that was maybe 6 feet away from me. And I decided that it might be a good idea to call 911 and have them come get me because I couldn't help myself at that point. And I struggled and flopped around, and I had a lot of difficulty reaching that phone to dial 911, but I finally did. I had left the front door of my house open. So the ambulance guys came in and took me to Porter Memorial Hospital in Valparaiso, Indiana. And, that's was around July 27th of 2012. And the first thing they did was put a spigot in my neck. And the next day I was on dialysis. But I had managed to avoid dialysis for a long time. While I was on dialysis, I became a kidney advocate. What happened is there were cuts that were being proposed to Medicare. And all of the people where I dialyzed were on Medicare. And that was at Fresenius lab in Crown Point, Indiana. And that made me angry because these guys were like shooting fish in a barrel. And I started to look around the room and I said to myself, who is capable of doing something about this? And it finally occurred to me, I'm the youngest one here. I'm the one that's an attorney in my background. I'm the one that knows the people to contact. And these poor other people, they're being brought in on their wheelchairs and gurneys and walkers. And some of them are basically being poured into their dialysis chair. And I said to myself, you are going to have to do this because there's no one else here that can. And I prepared petitions. I wrote newspaper articles. I gave interviews. I did whatever I had to do to bring attention to this issue. And as a result of myself and several other people, I did things like I joined the National Kidney Foundation, the American Kidney Fund, the AAKP. As a result of our joint work, those cuts were initially delayed and finally put off. So having a little success that's contributed to my becoming a kidney advocate. And I think that you asked a question earlier. I think that's part of what makes me unique. I'm not like my friend Valen Kiefer, who kind of comes from California sunshine and she loves everybody and she's a very nice woman and she just wants to help everybody. My motivation has been anger, and I've just kind of learned how to deal with that over the years, because as an attorney, when I was the most successful was when I was angry. And I kind of carried that into my kidney advocacy initially. The one other thing I'd like to say, Kent, and I'll turn it back over to you. There was a woman when I was on dialysis. Her name was Maureen O'Brien. And she had been a child kidney patient, a pediatric kidney patient. And she had had 3 transplants, and in between, she was on dialysis. And when she was able to work, she was a nurse. I owe her.
You're giving it all back, Jim.
She looked after me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to acknowledge that for your audience.
Those things are, you know what, that's part of this whole journey. Each one of us has those feelings. I wanted to ask the group, I know now Jonathan really didn't have a chance at this. One of the questions that's always kind of got me going is the idea of why, how many of you really were told, you know, that you could go to transplant before you went on dialysis? How many of you actually had a doctor say, I can tell you that my doctor Mulgrew in San Antonio began with that. Dialysis didn't purse his lips. What he said was, we need to get you ready for for transplant. You will not do well on dialysis. So, that's the direction I was very fortunate to get, roughly 40 years ago. And how about
Whatever the
you?
local nephrologist does as a normal treatment, they regard as sufficient. Okay. And to those doctors, transplant is right there as a treatment, as is peritoneal dialysis, as is hemodialysis, whatever. So if you're getting treated, that's good. And it is great. Dialysis is great because you're not going to die. And but no, they would never bring it up. It was whispered to me by the PD nurses at the local hospital, you should go check out getting a transplant. They'll never mention it to you.
Amazing. Amazing.
That's what makes me very angry. And I know where one of them lives, right in my town.
Yeah. 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 So
So
you had a
So send Bruce up there.
yeah, right. We wish we had Bruce tonight. He could tell us where he went through too.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, really.
Lord.
Jim, you had PKD. Now PKD, is progressive. We know that, as is FSGS, but sometimes it goes slow. Sometimes it goes pretty fast. What's your experience? Go back and tell me your experience with being told maybe you ought to go look for a transplant versus dialysis. Did that ever come up?
Well, the two options they gave me were basically this, Kent. They said you can go on in-center hemodialysis, peritoneal dialysis, or you can die. There was never any mention of preemptive transplant to avoid dialysis, none of that. And the thing that bothers me the most about that, Kent, is that progressively, from the age of 25 to the age of 58, you could see my GFR getting lower and lower and lower, my kidney function getting lower and lower, my creatinine getting higher. I think that when they finally put me on dialysis, I was like at a 9, but I was doing very, very well before that. And at no point in time was I ever advised, either by my local nephrologist or by my nephrologist in Indianapolis, that preemptive transplant was available to me. And I think the thing that I find the most disturbing about it is we're talking about roughly the same period of time that this was disclosed to you. So, for example, I think they talked to you in the 80s.
1984 was the day the year I was told. That was when I went biopsy.
I began my struggles around the 90s.
Yeah.
96, 97, 98, somewhere in there. So, and they never mentioned it.
I think that's important because I'm hoping and that this gets passed along. Now, this isn't grinding nephrologists. This isn't grinding the community. This is saying just the way it is. It hasn't changed that much. There is
No, I mean, still to this day, I have people that contact me as they must contact you and Armand and John, and they say my doctor said my options are so and so, do dialysis or croak,
yeah.
and they don't. They're always kind of shocked when I say, well, you should go back to your doctor and ask about preemptive kidney transplant. Am I a candidate for
Or a
a
transplant.
preemptive kidney
Yeah.
transplant? And it always seems like these same guys are around 25, 30, 20% GFR that they would make reasonably good candidates.
Well,
and,
sure.
And this just does not seem to be disclosed to them. And I find it distressing. I always tell them a story about my buddy Kent.Bressler and getting a
Yeah.
kidney from his brother and a preemptive transplant and not spending, any real time on dialysis. And, what is it, 38 years later or something like that, Kent? That kidney's still going strong for you, and, you do fairly well. And I always get the same reaction. It's like, really?
Right.
You could do that?
Yeah.
I mean, people are, I don't mean to take up everybody's time, but people are really shocked when, they
How
find out
much does
this is
anybody
an
know
option.
about kidney disease before they have it?
Not
It's
much,
not-
buddy.
It's not a general education thing.
No, it's
Now, I
not.
will say that in the I don't know about other states, but in the state of New York, as part of the junior level in high school in biology or health,
Health. Yeah.
they do get educated to some degree that they're about kidney disease, and that's the major thing that can be done, is this awareness throughout the non-kidney disease community, because it comes on slowly.
Yeah. There's plenty of time, right?
And
Absolutely.
yeah, but you got to be aware that it's out there, that it's real. Obviously, if you've had people with kidney disease in your family, that's the hard way to learn about it. But I certainly didn't know anybody who had kidney disease when I was growing up. Jim knew, had family members, but it's not generally talked about.
No, it's not. It's poor. There's very little information out there. In 40 years with kidney disease, well, almost 50 if you go back to, I'm not going to do the math. Anyway, it's been a long time coming that we start talking about something like this. Like
that's one of the things that I'm hopeful in, at least in my state of Connecticut, that when we passed the Living Donor Protection Act, there was a provision to establish a CKD advisory committee. Now, it's not a commission; it's a committee. So
right.
that means it's around.
It makes recommendations. Yeah.
And they have to. It's still trying to get organized. The legislature's a little slow.
Yeah,
but,
right. Yeah.
But I mean, we have our list of, I don't know, some 10 or 11 ideas that we can do. Education is obviously a big one.
Right.
And education in the minority communities, because that's where they're most susceptible. They're and frankly, they're kept the most ignorant. It's
tragic.
Well, it upsets me because I've had mentees in the past And just the way they report how their doctors talk to them, it was clear that they were expecting failure. And that ticks me off. So there's a number of items. Not that I'm some hugely enlightened person, but I don't have time for that crap.
No, I don't either. If you're sick, you should have access, period.
It's just a patient. You take care of that patient the best that you can. All the options, all that kind of stuff. In defense of the doctor, if he has a lot of this type of patient and he sees a lot of non-compliance and a lot of failure, they become jaded. But not everybody is like that.
No.
So you got to see them as the individual patient that's in front of you, not part of some statistical group and like that.
Or data set. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Data is data, but it's not people.
No, it's not. That's the issue. And that's what the four of us, and we've talked about this in our support groups. This isn't about us. It's about people. It's about patients. All right. The living, breathing number of people that we work with, they've got to have an opportunity. The mission is to provide opportunity and option. I think that's probably the best way to state it.
To know about multiple listing. Well, to know about transplants, to know about transplantation.
Right.
I mean, let's get basic. A lot of
Right.
times the news doesn't get out there for quite some time. And everybody thinks that it's one big happy system, that you could go to your nearest transplant center and get the same service as another one, maybe 40 miles further down the road.
And we know that's not the case.
Not the case.
Well, like I said, those PD nurses, they encouraged me to check it out. What's the biggest hospital in the state of Connecticut? Probably Yale, New Haven. So I checked it out. But it's also the slowest moving hospital, very conservative, very full of themselves. Okay, I'll use that term, in my opinion. And I just didn't get a warm, fuzzy feeling with the surgeon or the doctor that I met with. He was telling me I would have to have at the time, this is 26 years ago, I would have to have my native kidneys removed. And I'm thinking, they're smaller than raisins now, because I was, they were raisins when I started dialysis pretty much.
They were gone.
And
yeah.
This is 3.5 years later. They had tried to biopsy me in the beginning, and they wound up coming out with a piece of liver tissue. So that's
Oops.
wait a minute. I got that news up in the room after the
After
biopsy.
it was over.
We
Yeah.
don't know about your kidneys, but your liver's working great.
Yeah, we got liver tissue and it's looking pretty good.
But well, maybe not. But it's aggravating. So that my experience with that interview, I didn't believe that protocol was current. Well, what do I know? I wasn't in medicine at the time, but it didn't make any sense that it was current. Turns out it wasn't. But that threw me off transplantation for another few months. So then I said, well, this is not getting me anywhere. So I go up to Hartford Hospital, 180 degrees apart experience.
Total different.
It's sad. And then you get into the availability of getting a transplant in one or the other. Well, that was also different quite a bit. At the time, I think it was 4 to 5 years in Hartford and 7 years down at Yale. And that just happened to be from how they drew from the local areas. Now that's all changing too with the new UNIS requirements.
Right.
And I'm not quite intimate with them. In some places, it's had a major effect for the worst. I know up in Boston, the waiting is now like 10 years.
Yeah.
And,
Can you imagine that? And that's another thing that just amazes me. And somebody's told, you're got, and the patients we have through Kidney Solutions, that's what they come to me. They say, boy, that my waiting time could be 10 years. I can't
well,
wait that long.
I have a mentee who, okay, he's listed up in a hospital in Boston. His 92-year-old mother is down in Florida in the Orlando area. So he decides to go down there to help take care of his mother and to get listed in the Orlando area at Advent Health. And that's a good thing. And he's going to stay there. And if they happen to come up with a kidney in Boston, he'll go back to Boston.
Sure.
Otherwise, he'll try to get it there because the waiting list is less. But now he's got a problem with getting on their list down there. And he's had trouble with the doctors getting back to him, or the medical people to get back to him, waiting 2 weeks or 2 months for questions. They told him he needed to see a cardiologist to get checked out. So he found one, and like that. He didn't use their cardiologist, and that may be the problem. And they said, we want you to get stents. Now, Boston never mentioned that they wanted him to get stents put in. So now he's efforting that. He happens to be gay, and they're not exactly thrilled with a gay person in Florida as much as in Boston, and that pisses me off. So it should have nothing to do with it, right? I mean, it's so he's frustrated with how long everything is taking to get a straight answer, to get back to him. And
there's a great book out there right now, and I don't know, I podcasted with this gal by the name of Marcia Gershon, and then John Landis, who's an ethicist, MD. It's called Kidney to Share, and it is through Mayo Clinic. This is where this gal wanted to give her kidney to a friend, and it's amazing. It's an amazing read because it takes so long, right? There's if you have a donor, wouldn't you think wouldn't you think there would be a fast track for that? We have a fast track for everything in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 110%, that if you have a donor, they're a match, what are we waiting for?
Yeah.
Right.
There's no question medically, is there, Kent, that a transplant is better for your all-around health, your heart health, your brain health than being on dialysis?
Yeah.
So don't they tell us 4, 5, 6 years on dialysis, you're at risk?
Well, look at the fact that the living rate, the chance of survival on dialysis, it's very low. All right. And I can't quote you in it. Yeah. So to me, one easy way to make this work, like we talked about many, many times, is to have someone be able to go through the system, regardless of what system it is, in a hurry. Okay. They should be afforded a chance when you call the cardiologist said, well, we can get you in a couple months. I can see you in 2 months. Well, no, here you go, doc. I'm in kidney failure. I have a chance to get it. I have a donor. All right. How fast can you get me in? Now that should be there should be some way to fast track this. That's all there is.
There should be an exception for that. Should be a special exception for that.
And that is not, it's not like you're going to say, well, okay, go home and sit and wait for 10 years for your donor to show up as a deceased donor. Some people get real lucky and they see a donor on the deceased donor list very quickly, but the vast majority, they don't. Jonathan was very fortunate, right, Jonathan?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm such a blessed individual compared to so many others out there. I mean, I was told here 6 to 8 years for a deceased donor. They didn't bring up transplant. Go back to what you were asking earlier. I didn't hear the words transplant until about 3 or 4 months into treatment in center. I didn't even know. I wasn't even thinking about really transplant, and then I, ended up coming along and getting connected with Kidney Solutions and some guy named Kent.Bressler. But that's another story, another podcast for another time. But I started getting used to going to in center and the schedule, and I started thinking as a patient, man, this is going to be my life. This is the way things are. When they started bringing up transplant, that really changed everything.
Changed the picture, didn't it?
My mindset, and I started thinking, you know what, there's a light here. There's hope. There's a possibility. But yeah, the way that I got my transplant is
pretty darn quick. Yeah,
it's incredible. It's incredible.
And to think
How
too
much
that
time
you
are we
had,
talking about, John?
I roughly did dialysis around 14 months, Uncle Jim, believe it or not. And that's a really a short time, for a lot of people out there that have been doing dialysis a long time and waiting a long time. So
you just
where were you transplanted, John?
I was transplanted at Methodist Specialty and Transplant at the Texas Transplant Institute there in San Antonio. So I had a great nephrologist, a team down there that was really incredible, great surgeon. And
the key.
they were, I'm sorry.
No,
I was
go
just
ahead.
going to tell you they were late on my kidney when they direct flighted that kidney from Kentucky to San Antonio, and my kidney actually showed up late because they had me all prepped, and this was during COVID, so it was like late.
It was enjoying the trip in first class.
but seriously, I had to leave my wife at the door, and they had strict COVID regulations.
Oh gosh,
and
yeah.
and and then they come in the room, they had me all prepped. They were ready to take me down, and they come in and said, well, your kidney missed the flight. I was like, oh dear God.
It's
like,
on
what else
it's on standby in Louisville.
And I'm remembering all these things that we discussed in the support group meetings and private conversations I had with Ken. He said, you never know. It's not a done deal until you hit those doors and you see the surgeon. And I was like, oh man, what's going to happen? But luckily the kidney finally showed up, and here I am. So, but yeah, I'm very grateful for the way that I got the transplant.
You
was
should
the
just give
cooler
us a
sitting
brief
at the
explanation,
door,
John.
or was his escort?
Yeah, he needed a full military
Give us a
escort.
brief explanation, John. Tell us a little bit about that story about how you received your kidney from your friend in Kentucky.
Well, can't warn me it was going to come at a time that I wasn't even thinking about it, and that's literally what happened. We were going out the door to attend something as a family, and I got phone calls, and I kept ignoring the phone call. I thought it was like a tech question because I have a background with technology, and finally my wife got a call, said, hey, or text, you need to take that phone call. Like, we're really trying to get a hold of Jonathan. This is an emergency. And so finally I called her, and she says, hey, my brother's passing away. We want to know, we've conveyed together as a family, and we've discussed it, and he was registered as a donor, and we would like to direct donate to you his kidney. And first of all, I'm taken back by the fact that this guy is passing away. We knew him, we knew their family, we I had known him for years, went to church together, had family events, things of this nature. And, so I was taken back by the fact that, he passed away. But I needed a kidney. And, I think I consulted with the Uncle Jim. I consulted with Kent. I'd consulted with, I'd call a couple, getting advice. And, after talking with you guys and talking it over with Melissa, I felt like this was what I needed to do. I needed to take this kidney. And it was a bittersweet moment, but, here I am, almost 2 years post, and very grateful individual. So.
You don't have any need to fear a kidney. So as we always say amongst ourselves, don't pass one up. You get a chance, don't pass one up. It's there for you to take it.
And that one was actually considered a high risk. They I won't release the reason why, but you can put two and two together. He was a young man and 40 years old, and it was considered a high risk kidney. But I'm glad I took it. I mean, they warned me of all the protocols and all the disclaimers of what could happen. But I wanted to be relieved of dialysis, and I wanted the opportunity to live a normal life with kidney disease, as normal as you can get. It's what I felt like I wanted to do. Again, I'm very grateful. Very grateful.
Great story. Great kidney story, my friend.
So I know it's starting to get past Armand and Jim's bedtime. So we're gonna need to either keep
Did
going.
I ever say that we were tired? I just finished a cup of coffee.
Bedtime.
Okay,
I just want to say each one of you have very unique hairstyles. I don't know if anyone's ever told you that. You have some
hairstyles.
very unique.
What are you talking about? None of us have hair. What are you talking about? Hairstyle.
We hardly have style.
We're stylists, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
Armand holds us against us because he's got 33 hairs, and
I only have 4.
Kent and I have about 6.
Yeah.
Between the two of us.
I look like I have hair until I go into the pool, and then everything lays flat, and you see a lot of skin.
Right. Well,
it's not a comb over, but
from the back
Can I
forward.
say one more thing before
Sure,
we
yeah. No,
go?
we're not-
Kent?
Yeah, I'm not ready to go yet. I don't care if this thing
Okay.
takes 4 hours. You guys will, but
okay.
All
Let's
right,
we bracketed. I care that it goes 4 hours.
it's
Let's
not going to
back
go
it
4
down.
hours. I did have a
I
couple.
got to
Go
see
ahead,
the Red
Jim.
Sox lose against Cleveland.
All right. I just wanted to say to my friends that are more experienced, more mature kidney advocates, please encourage our younger kidney advocates like Jonathan, because for some reason or other, there are some men that are in power. They don't seem to understand that they're not going to live forever. They just don't get this, or they don't acknowledge it. But don't bully, don't discourage, don't make it difficult for the younger advocate. Encourage that younger advocate, because we want kidney advocacy. We want the raising of awareness. We want discussions like this one about various kidney issues to continue. And we want them to continue until the day that they find a cure for kidney disease. So kidney disease is no more. Now, I don't know that that day will ever come, but I do know advances can only be made by people that are advocates for kidney patients like myself, like Jonathan, like Kent, like Armand, And we have to be persistent and consistent and continue to fight, because that's exactly what it is. It's an uphill fight. And as my friend Armand said, this disease is not well known in the public. Most people, when they discuss their experience with kidney disease, they fall out of bed one morning and the next thing they know, they're being fitted for a catheter and they're on dialysis.
Yep.
That's how most of this occurs. So I just want to say to my more experienced friends out there, don't discourage the younger guys. Don't bully the younger guys, the younger ladies. Give them a chance, bring them along, instruct them, listen to them, try to help them out. You're not going to be here forever. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth. And it's not a competition. It's us against it, not against each other. So I'm grateful that Jonathan's my friend and he's helped me out with some of my technical stuff. I wouldn't have podcasts without John. Okay, I wouldn't. So encourage your younger advocate. Give them a chance to do the right thing. That's what I wanted to say, Mr. Kent.
Thank you, Jim. I don't know of any issue where I guess maybe I'm not in that circle, but I can tell you that bullying or not encouraging advocacy or mentoring is suicide for the kidney disease world. You have to do it. You have to pay back. That's what we're doing. But here's the point. Here's the point, and the takeaway for everything is, if you have basic knowledge or if you have extensive knowledge and you keep it to yourself, no one wins. They don't. So you have to take somebody by the hand. You have to lead them. You have to show them. And then, but you don't tell them. You just show them, you give them the information that they can work with, right? It's not, this kidney world here is a kidney world of non-option. It's do this, do that. It's better if a person is educated early on so they can make a decision for themselves. It's not at all about individualism. It's all about everyone being able to get the correct vetted information so they can make a decision. Not the doctors, not the nurses, not the family in so much, but the individual. Because they're the one that has to say, yes, I want to do this. And they sure can't do that without good vetted information. And I think that's even as important as grabbing an advocate or teaching somebody how to be an advocate. You got to teach them how to be a kidney patient first. They have to
Being an
learn.
advocate is telling his own story or her
Exactly.
own story.
Exactly.
Because that's when the recipient listens.
Yep.
Because they haven't heard all of these. I mean, your representatives, your senators, nationally and locally, they probably all have toured a dialysis center and they think that's it. That's not it. So
No.
and the experience is it's not a like a senior citizens club or any other club that you think where people go and play cards while they're doing it and all this kind of stuff. It's day in, it's day out. It's the same schedule as Jonathan was talking about. And it becomes a grind and it becomes a mental game in terms of keeping your spirits up because it's a lot. It's a lot.
So the
There's a lot of
difference,
dogs that get hugged.
yeah, the difference
So people can make
here
it through.
between advocacy and mentoring is vast. All right. Being an advocate and, speaking up for people with kidney disease is a whole lot different than mentoring an individual to help them through the process on the journey. There's we don't talk as much about mentoring. Actually being there for the patient from the whole point, from first diagnosis to the time they are transplanted till 5 years out or 10 years out. It's a continuum. It is not a one horse pony or whatever. It's a very important journey, and you have to have someone along with you that's been through it. But for advocacy, that's totally different in my book. Advocacy is reaching out to the powers that be that have control of the purse strings. All right. That's advocacy. But when you mentor, you're reaching out to the individual that's got a serious condition, a life-threatening
Big
condition.
difference.
Big difference. Okay.
Big difference. You're right.
So the point is that too, everyone can be both, and you should be both. That which means you join organizations like Armand and like all of us, AAKP, NKF, American Kidney Fund, and then get involved with hill duties, all kinds of different things that you can do. But if you want to sit back and do nothing, that's your choice too. If you just want to live, that's good. But don't pass up a chance to tell your story. Like Armand said, don't pass up a chance. All right. Because when you have an illness, when you have a disease process so chronic as PKD or FSGS, and then they're rare to boot, you carry that moniker your whole life. You run the risk of having your kidney malfunction and reject at any point in time. And I know that Armand has experienced that at a very late stage. And I want you to know that is not something that happens all the time. I read a statistic just the other day that like 20 to 30% of the kidneys that are transplanted fail within 5 years, and 50% of them do it in 10. So where's the education here now? Where are we going to talk about people taking care of themselves, having access to care, but also being their own best advocate? We say that all the time. All right. So
Constantly in support group, by the way. We try to stress that to the members of our support group. You are your own best advocate. You have to stick up for yourself.
Yep. And if you don't understand something, you've got to ask. You can't just take it to the grave with you. And they use the term renal transplant type of issue where you get some renal transplant, whether you do dialysis or get transplanted. There's alternatives to everything, but there's very few alternatives in kidney disease. You either get transplanted, you get dialysis, or you die. Pretty simple. They don't want to talk to you about that, but we'll mention it. So there you go.
And Kent, support groups have been very good to talk about things that are developing, the science that is developing behind kidney disease, the alternatives, artificial kidney, xenotransplants, all those kind of things that they're working on to try and lessen the number of people that are on the transplant list and can actually get transplanted. So Kidney Solutions and their support groups are worth checking into. It's not a big deal. You just get on a Zoom and Mr. Kent and Miss Shannon will help you. And Kidney Solutions has a website with a web address and a phone number. What's the phone number, Kent?
830-285-2140.
Shameless plug for my buddy Kent.
Well, seeing that Kent's Kidney
It's
Stories
shameful.
right. I want to go on, but I really don't. I want to just offer this to all the people that are listening. If you have questions, I can put you in touch with any of these guys and several more people in my circle that are more than willing to assist you, to mentor you. All right. We have tremendous programs at Kidney Solutions, and it's all free. Okay. We don't charge anything. It's a free, and people say, well, it can't be free. Well, it is. All right. So just, if you have any interest of helping someone with kidney disease, give us a call, or kidneysolutions.org. That's another way you can get a hold of it.
Yeah, I've never received a bill in 2 years, so it's absolutely free.
Okay, guys.
So,
Did we get anything accomplished?
I don't know.
Hello?
Wait till they do the editing and you'll see.
Yeah, well, there won't be much editing. It's going to go out there free gratis. It's going to just go word for word.
we're still recording.
Yeah, that's right. So don't be careful, right?
Jason's got his work cut out.
Poor Jace.
Yeah.
He won't miss the next meeting. I guarantee that.
Well, we have to give him pause. Remember, his family's here. Family means a lot to
Right.
him, you know. And
And
that
I'm
He's
just
done
saying,
it.
when his family ain't here, he's
yeah,
not going to miss the next time we get together.
right.
He's done an incredible job with your podcast and really been a blessing to Kidney Solutions. So
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
absolutely.
he's a good guy.
And Jason, you know, Jason's an amputee. Okay.
Yeah.
And he has diabetes. And yet he still continues to honor his faith and work within the community. And this cat, he's got it. He really does. And he'll get to it. So just a matter of time, he can fix it. He's a really, really good friend, and he's a good friend of Kidney Solutions, a good friend of ours. I'm missing
Absolutely.
him tonight. Another person,
Absolutely.
Shane Blanchard out there in Iowa, out in the cornfield. That guy, he's amazing.
Yeah.
He's got quite a story. I'm gonna turn those two in, and we'll have about another panel, and maybe we can get some.
We should really
down.
do this every once in a while.
I want to
And
do
we
this.
should pick a topic, and
Yeah,
we should get together and meet every once in a while. And, you know, Shane's been bringing us experts
yeah,
that speak on Thursday nights
Yeah.
on the support group. And that's always pretty cool.
yeah. The last person I wanted to mention was Bruce Kraft. He's the president of Kidney Solutions.
Oh yeah.
This man is amazing. If you can just tie him down enough to talk to him about his kidney journey, he's been transplanted for 50 years, and he is also on. I podcasted him. Matter of fact, August was his 50th. No, and so he'll be 51. He'll be 51 next month. That's amazing.
Incredible.
That is amazing.
And the Quarter Century Club, they're going to have to make a new club out now because they've got 3 or 4 people that I know of that are out 50 years.
Wow.
So you see, this transplant process is the way to go. We just don't have enough donors. We got to search out a way to get donors. And that's the big thing. So
all you guys that have been out that long with these kidney transplants gives a guy like me who's just 2 years transplanted hope to one day I can actually achieve those same goals that you guys had early on, to live a long life with a transplanted kidney. So when I hear you guys talk about these long-term transplants lasting this long, I mean 50 years, that gives me a hope, and I'm smiling on the inside thinking, wow, that could actually happen for me. So
it will happen for you. It will happen for you.
Of course, 50 years from now, I'll be like 94.
Yeah, they can celebrate it in the nursing home.
Yeah. You may not know what you.
Yeah, you won't even know if it's 50 what it is. And Armand, what's really unique about Armand is that his kidney is deceased kidney. Okay, that's amazing to me, to be out 25, 26 years with a deceased kidney.
Yeah.
All right. And there are more people out there that I
Everybody
know
went
of.
through to get there. He deserves it.
Absolutely. And so, but it again, it boils it down to you doing what you need to do. And it ain't about luck. There's no luck in this. It's divine. That's what it is. I guess we should probably end on that. What do you say?
Okay,
All right.
good enough.
Okay, everybody, listen. We're going to start doing a couple more of these periodically, and if you happen to listen to this, subscribe to it and make a comment, and get back with me. Let me know how it's going with you, and maybe if you know people that need help, give them our number and kidneysolutions.org, and we'll make all the information available to you. We won't hold anything back. All right.
What's
So
that number again, Kent?
830-285-2140. It's
In New
the
Jersey called Bigelow too.
right. One of these times, somebody's probably going to say BR54, whatever what was on that crazy show, BR549. All right, everybody, listen. We're going to do this again, and our podcast is going to keep coming on. Get a hold of us. Until then, keep breathing.